In some cases, where criminals thought they had everything under control, they end up paying a high price for the crimes they tried to commit, whether it's from distraction or even an unexpected intervention. From someone, these criminals find themselves facing a fate that's a whole lot different from what they were expecting. In some situations, robbery turns into a real comedy of errors, and the robber ends up way more defeated than they ever imagined. And that's exactly what you're going to see here today. So, go ahead and leave your click down below on the subscribe button and let's jump right in. A guy was calmly heading to his car when he noticed something strange going on. Someone trying to run from the police. Curious, he stopped to figure out what was happening in the blink of an eye. The criminal who was running got close, not realizing the guy had already sized up the situation. That's when, in a split second, the man delivered a spot-on leg sweep, knocking the criminal down and stopping him from continuing his escape. But it didn't end there. There was another guy chasing the criminal. As soon as he caught up, he tried to grab the criminal with his hands but got outmaneuvered. The robber still hadn't gone down for good. Then, with some quick thinking, the first guy played it cool and landed a second leg sweep. This time, the criminal had no way out and got pinned to the ground, unable to move at all. Happened super fast, but the most impressive part was the agility and smart timing. In the end, the criminal got the worst of it and wound up in jail. A group of thieves showed up full of confidence, ready to rob a store, but they totally failed. They arrived in one car and 3 more on motorcycles. The car tried to break the storefront glass right away, but the glass was way stronger than they imagined. Meanwhile, the other thieves parked their bikes quickly and pulled out hammers from inside their clothes, all set to try to smash the glass too, but it was no use. The glass didn't budge an inch. They tried everything, pounding with force, but the glass stayed firm, stronger than all of them. The car even tried one more time, slamming into the glass, but instead of breaking it, the car just bounced off. No luck. They couldn't even crack it, and the worse it got, the more it seemed like nothing was going to work. Things went downhill for the thieves. In the end, they realized they had no way to pull off the plan and took off empty-handed, ditching the idea in the car. The glass, which they thought was the store's weak point, turned out to be a real barrier, frustrating the thieves' plans and making them leave without accomplishing a single thing. This story feels like it came straight out of a funny home video show. It all starts with a guy parking his car in front of his house. He hops out quickly to open the gate, and in that moment, 2 guys show up announcing a robbery. The victim even tries to fight back. But against 2 people, there's not much he can do, so he gives up the car. The real chaos begins when the thieves get into the car and realize they don't even know how to drive it. Right? They fumble around trying to get out of there, but nothing worked. Their desperation grows as time ticks by, and the scene just gets weirder and weirder out of nowhere. Another character appears on the scene, a neighbor or friend of the car's owner, armed with a broom. That's right, a broom. He goes after the thief in the driver's seat, swinging the broom through the window. The driver, not knowing what to do, just gives up and bails from the car with his partner. And for the grand finale, when it looked like everything was over, one of the thieves decides to grab another car that's parked nearby, but in his hurry, he reverses without looking and ends up running over his own accomplice before speeding away, leaving his buddy behind. It's the kind of story that if someone just told you, you might not believe it. In Sandia, in the federal district in Brazil, a thief went through a scene straight out of a comedy movie when he tried to break into a house. He decided to go in through the kitchen, but his head got stuck in the door. The commotion started when neighbors heard cries for help in the middle of the morning. Oh, completely desperate. The guy was begging to be freed, saying he feared for his life. Curious locals called the Mill AR police, who arrived with a ladder to get into the property. When the officers climbed up the wall and looked inside, they were greeted by the thief stuck in the door, struggling to break free. No luck. The funniest part was that this unlucky guy was all set up to avoid leaving any traces, wearing gloves to prevent fingerprints. But it didn't do him any good, since he never expected the door to swing back and trap him. And then he found out the house had been empty for weeks, with nothing inside worth taking after a lot of effort. And with the neighbor help, the police managed to get him unstuck. He was taken to the station and arrested in the end. He didn't manage to. Also ended up as the neighborhood laughingstock. It was like destiny playing a prank with instant karma. A man came running up to a house, clearly eyeing a package there without wasting time. He snatched the parcel and tried to hide it under his hoodie, thinking he'd walk off scot-free. What he didn't count on was the door camera being active, recording everything, and even switching up the lighting to mark the suspicious movement, making matters worse for him. A police cruiser showed up right on the corner of the street. At that exact moment, noticing the camera light had changed, and the cops were getting close, the thief tried to play it off. He pretended it had nothing to do with him, dropped the package back by the door, and turned his back, trying to look as innocent as possible. His suspicious behavior only caught the officers' attention more, and they decided to stop and check out what was going on. Despite acting clueless, he couldn't hide how guilty he looked. In Alberta, in Canada, a thief pulled of one of the fastest, craziest arrests ever seen. The guy walked into a convenience store to buy an energy drink with a stolen credit card, not realizing there was a police officer standing right behind him in line while waiting his turn at the register. He was already drinking the energy drink straight from the can when it was time to pay. He tried everything, swiping the card, tapping it. Nothing worked. Desperate. He even dug out some coins from his pocket to try to cover the purchase, but the register system warned the clerk that the card was stolen and that they should call the police. What the thief didn't know was that they didn't even need to call, because the police officer was literally right there behind him. As soon as the clerk showed the notice to him, the officer didn't think twice. He whipped out the cuffs and arrested the guy on the spot. The clerk, Clayton, found it so hilarious he could hardly keep a straight face while it was all going down. Later, he said it was one of the easiest arrests ever since the thief practically turned himself in. In the end, the suspect was let go on condition and he'd appear in court, but the story has already gone down as one of the most embarrassing moments in the world of crime. Using a stolen credit card with the police in the same line was, to say the least, a disastrous plan. A thief thought he was going to score big when he tried to steal a woman's bags on the street, but he ended up in a mess. He definitely didn't see coming riding a bike. He was cruising, slowly, already eyeing his target. He rolled by her almost at a standstill, waiting for just the right moment until he decided to strike. As soon as he got close, he yanked on her bags. Of course, the woman fought back, holding on to her belongings as best she could during the struggle. She fell to the ground, which caught the attention of people in traffic. A passenger from a car that was stopped there saw what was happening and jumped out without thinking. Twice he went straight for the thief, who was still trying to free his bike from the ground. Others nearby also decided to help, and within seconds, the thief was surrounded by a group that took it upon themselves to teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, the victim got her bags back. In the end, the thief was pinned down and was probably regretting trying to snatch those bags in that spot. At that time, thief thought he was being super sneaky, trying to pry open a glass door with a crowbar, taking major care not to draw anyone's attention. He was trying to open the door quietly, thinking nobody would see or hear anything. What he didn't know was that the homeowner was upstairs at the window, filming everything on her phone, staying completely silent so he wouldn't notice, while he kept working on breaking the glass. The homeowner had already called the police and was recording the whole time. It didn't take long before 3 officers showed up out of nowhere. They announced the arrest and pinned him down, throwing him on the ground and hauling him straight off to the station. The thief, not even realizing he was on camera, got caught red-handed, and the homeowner, besides stopping the burglary, helped the police with the footage. In the end, his plan went south, and he paid the price, another proof that crime really doesn't pay. Especially when the wrong person is watching, the plan might have seemed simple, but its execution was a total disaster. The thief's goal was to steal an ATM, but what happened after was downright painful. A security camera in a snack shop caught the moment the guy parked on the sidewalk, got out with some tape, and tried to wrap it around the ATM to pull it out of there. After getting the tape around the machine, he headed back to the car, figuring they could yank it out with no problem. When the car sped forward, it dragged not just the ATM, but the door along with it, and the thief took a massive hit. As a result, the guy didn't walk away unscathed after getting nailed by the ATM. He limped off and had to chase. The car, it's another example of how, when a crook doesn't think through the details, the plan can collapse real fast. He just wanted to take the ATM, but instead ended up with a headache and a sore knee. instead of the big prize he had in mind. Security camera footage captured the moment a store owner faced down a knife. Wielding robber Oskan Yarim, who was 36 years old, was by himself when a masked man walked in with a large kitchen knife and demanded the money from the register. The thief pointed the knife, threatening him, but the store owner didn't back down. He fought back. Instead of giving in, Yarim tried to hold off the robber, using a box of paper rolls. Right away, the two started wrestling behind the counter. The robber, who wanted to control the situation, ended up disarmed and lost his mask and sweater while trying to run. The strangest part is that during all this chaos, Yurim was on a video call with his girlfriend. At first, she thought he was joking around, but soon she realized it was real. Thankfully, with Yurim's courage and quick thinking, he wasn't hurt, and the thief didn't get away with any merchandise. Hopefully, that robber will think twice before trying something like that again. A criminal walked into a place wearing a helmet, holding a gun, and carrying a plastic bag, announcing a holdup and demanding all the money from the register. Even though the place was almost empty, one customer decided to take matters into his own hands. He waited for the robber to get a little distracted, grabbed a chair, and suddenly smacked him right in the back. The impact knocked the helmet off, exposing the thief's face and leaving him totally dazed from that moment on. It was total chaos. A fight started between the criminal and the customer, who didn't seem at all worried about the robber's weapon, which turned out to be a toy gun. One funny detail is that while this crazy scene was going down, a staff member kept cleaning the table like nothing was happening. She seemed completely committed to wiping off every speck of dirt in that place, just